Welcome. It's time to head back to Mexico at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for today's big race. The teams are all lined up on the grid, and we're just about ready to join them for what will no doubt be a memorable race. Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez gets its name from the legendary drivers and brothers Pedro and Ricardo Rodriguez. This circuit is the highest above sea level on the calendar, coming in at just under 2,300 meters. So while the drag will be low around the 17 corners here in Mexico City, cooling could be a problem for cars who spend too much time in the dirty air. As we await the start of another hugely anticipated Formula 2 race, I'm joined again by Davide Valsecchi. Davide, as a former GP2 champion, can we get some insight to what is running through these young drivers' heads as they sit out on the grid?
Ciao Alex, it's a pleasure to be here. There are nervy moments, there is no doubts about that. Mental strength is the key to remaining calm and focusing on the upcoming race. Formula 2 is so competitive, and all of these drivers knows that they are going to be pushing each other all of the way. In this sport, you have to be able to control your nerves.
With that then, let's run through the grid order. Robert Schwartzman lines up on pole position, and starting alongside him P2 is Juri Vips. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Piastri, Armstrong, Jack Aitken, and Dragovic, Joe, Zendelli, Samaya, Marino Sato, Ticktum, Beckman, Richard Verschoor, and Pourchaire, Lundgaard, Deruvala, Echarouz, and Liam Lawson. Fiscal, Nissani, Boschon, and Alessio Deleda rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we're back here after a little break with another F2 video. It is the feature race at the lovely Mexican GP circuit. Should be a really interesting one today. Do believe we can actually win the championship. Look at all those lovely fans in the grandstands. We've got the pit wall over to the right, but this is certainly going to be, hopefully, a fun one here today at Mexico. I really enjoy the tracks. It'd be nice to trundle around it in some F2 cars. We currently do lead the championship by quite a chunk, actually. We've got fallen a bit lucky at some tracks, had some great sprint races, and that sent us up the order. So I do believe we can actually win the championship today with a whole round to spare. But in terms of our race strategy, it will be a one-stop, soft to super soft to finish. Interesting option there. Maybe not have gone for that, but let's see what it, if we go for, let's add a stint on, and then let's go, can we go soft? No, we can't. Right, this is a bit weird. I'd love to see what we could do if we could start on the super softs, but it's suggesting that we can't. So we have to start on the softs whether we want to or not. But I don't mind that. I don't mind a faster tyre towards the end. That degrades a bit more. We'll go with that for the 20 laps round Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, because the only way to do it, no, we don't want to select the strategy. The only way to do it is by adding another stint, and then we can't change that to softs. We can't change that to softs. Can't change that to super softs unless it wouldn't work. So effectively, we can't actually change the strategy from starting on the softs. So we're going to start on the softs, that's fine, don't mind that. Then we'll go to the faster super softs to finish here today at Mexico. It's going to be nice and sunny all the way through, so it should be a really fun one. Before we begin though, let's have a little look at the grid order. Not for the first time in this series, we line up P1 on the grid in our lovely Prima car. Quite used to getting pole position in this. I love a bit of quali in F2 cars. The third time, I do believe, out of 4 now, that we are lining up on pole position for the feature. So we've got definitely a good chance of some good points. I do believe we can actually win the championship here today. So that will pretty much wrap up the season for us with really nothing really. It's not really worth it for us going into Silverstone then, because we'll have won the championship. And of course, we'll be just pretty much safe and dry, and it's pretty much the season done for us, of course. Fiscal will be trying to stop us. He sits P2 in the championship, but way out the points with ourselves. P1 on the grid. It's looking really, really strong for us. Our teammate, Oscar Piastri, he's looking to get into the mix for a podium fight. He's had a bit of a dismal season so far. He was looking for some great points, of course, at Austria, and then, of course, he had that spin in the feature race that cost him. Hopefully, we can maybe fight together at the front today. That would certainly be really nice if we could be fighting together at the front. But looking to stop us, Juri Vips, who's had a pretty decent, consistent season. He'll be searching for some really good points today for the championship and also for High-Tech in the Constructors' standing. So Juri could certainly be getting into the mix at the front. So could Marcus Armstrong. He's been decently consistent for Dams this season, getting in the mix quite a bit. Definitely going to be looking for some good amount of points today. How many will be able to get? I don't know, because there's some great charging cars coming from behind. But Armstrong starting P4 for Dams. Don't count him out for a podium. Then we get on to the mini list of drivers who have been quite disappointing in the first few rounds of the season, but have really, really come back into it heading into the end of this season. And one of those is Jack Aitken. Really has struggled. He struggled at Bahrain and Imola, but now turning it around, unlike his teammate, who's on a bit of a downhill trajectory. Jack Aitken for HWA Race Lab, P5 on the grid. As I've said, looking to turn his season around. Can't really get into the mix for a podium position. Is a bit too far out for that. However, I'm sure he'll certainly be searching for some good points today. So P5 for him. The Brit will be looking for decent points for the team. All the hopes for H3A, of course, resting on his shoulders. Then you've got the two Univirtuosi racing cars, both of those with a dismal start to the season, but since Austria, they have really been coming back, especially Juan Yuzhou. It is his teammate, though, Drugovic, in front on the grid. Those two will be looking for some great points for the constructors, and also Juan Yuzhou is looking to get into the mix maybe for a top 3 position at the end of the season in the driver standings. So those two could certainly be quite strong today, especially Juan Yuzhou and Felipe Drugovic. Those two really, really good drivers. Drugovic certainly struggled a bit more this season than Juan Yuzhou. They both have, but great to see them up in the top 10 fighting for points, hopefully, today. Then Lorim Zendelli has been pretty consistent in terms of his positions, but sometimes he's had little problems. I don't know if he's lost form a couple of times in terms of his driving. Maybe just, I think he's had a couple of mechanical issues, and it's been good pace, but not consistently, I feel, for Lorim Zendelli. He's been denied of points a few times thanks to that. And P8 today, hopefully he can bring some points home for MP Motorsport, but it's going to be definitely quite hard for him to find that stability in the car. Really has struggled with it a bit this season, so hopefully he can find that today. Then Samaya, another driver looking to turn his season around, been consistently towards the back, but now sits towards the front for Charu Racing System. P9 on the grid, the Brazilian will be looking for something decent in today's race. So will Marino Sato for Trident. He's looked the stronger of the two in Mexico so far in terms of him versus his teammate, but been so unlucky at points this season. Hopefully he'll be able to take some good points today. He's had unlucky mechanical failures, of course. I think he had one at Austria. That denied him a load of points. He has got points on the board now. Fingers crossed, though, for him. He can stay in the top 10 and get something decent. Similarly, though, for Dan Ticktum, he's been hovering just outside of the top 10 and in it. The last few races similar for his teammate. So Ticktum turning his season around too. He'll be looking for some points. Beckman and Vershaw, P12 and P13. You've got Campos and MP Motorsport. Those two have been sort of just lingering around the top 10. Vershaw in it a few times. Those two, though, they're going to have a bit of work to fight forward, but wouldn't count those two out maybe for some points today. Theo Poucher, though, P14. He's fighting for the top 3 in the championship, but down there with his teammate, P14, that is not where he wants to be. He's going to really struggle to keep a podium position in the championship. Bit of a dismal one here at Mexico for him. A lot of work to do to take something away from it. Similarly, for Christian Lundgaard, looked good in Austria, but struggling once again. The Dane next to his teammate. They're going to try and fight forward, but it might be a bit too much work for them. Then Jehan Deruval at P16, a bit frustrating for him, I've got to say, in the Carlin, because Jehan starting to get a bit with the pace at Austria, but sort of fallen back down the field. P16 for him on the grid. Now it's sort of getting to the point where these guys just going to be looking to fight amongst themselves for minor placings. Then Enzo Fittipaldi looked great at the start of the season, but he's really dropped down the order, way behind his teammate today, and probably, I think, a podium by the end of the season in the overall standings is looking a tad too far-fetched for him. The Brazilian down in P17. Bit of a shame for him. Liam Lawson, P18. He's been consistently up there so far this season, but down in P18, another one of those strugglers this weekend. Probably won't be taking any points. Similarly, for our championship rival, Ben Viscal was P2 coming into this. Still is P2, but it's going to be quite difficult for him to keep that. If he's down there in P19, he's got some charging cars like Juan Yuzhou coming up the order, and of course my teammate Oscar Piastri. So Ben is going to need a massive race to get in the points, and of course, if he can't get anywhere near us and we don't have a disaster, the championship fight is pretty much over there. So disappointing quality, and that is really leaving him to pay the price this race weekend. Roy Nisney down there in P20 for Dams has never really managed to show some fantastic pace this season. Consistently back there with Ralph Boschung for Campos Racing. Those two still yet to get a great result. And Alessio Deleda, remember he took that fantastic sprint race win at Imola, and since then it's really gone downhill. Nowhere near his teammate, way away from the points and struggling to take anything. But I have to say, it is looking very interesting for this one. Maybe some drivers looking for a bit of redemption compared to their first half of the season with the likes of Aitken, Drugovich, Show, Samaya, Sato. It's going to be a very interesting one. And then, of course, Poucher, maybe Lundgaard, Fittipaldi, Viscal charging through the field. Plenty to watch for in this F2 race. Before we begin, though, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and want to watch more content like this. But now, it is time for the feature race in Mexico. The start is certainly going to be an interesting one here at Mexico, because you do drop quite a way back with the long way to turn one. If you get a bad start, 5 red lights, they're out, and away we go. Our start isn't too bad. We generally don't get a great initial start. Vips, though, certainly doesn't here today. My teammate Oscar Piastri coming at us, and we're not finding as much speed down to the first corner. Usually, though, we're decent on the brakes into the first corner. And oh dear, we were a bit unsteady under braking, nearly went into Vips. Thankfully, we managed to avoid doing that. My teammate Piastri's had a really poor start down at P5. Shame for him. Great start for Armstrong and Aitken. Those two are going to be happy. Of course, purple sector 1 because we lead the field, as you'd expect. Further back, a bit of fighting between Aitken and Armstrong. Those two squabbling for the final podium position. Ourselves looking pretty nice and tasty in P1. We can sort of just sit here. Haven't raced around Mexico for a little while. It certainly has been a while since the sprint race, so just getting back into the groove round here. No practice before this, so just finding the nice little groove that we can usually get into round here. So my teammate Oscar Piastri, not that well off the line, have to say, into turn 1. Struggling a little bit. Vips certainly wasn't struggling under braking into turn 1, just not the best of lifts for him, but already you can see the gap back to my teammate 2.269, and we are very, very slippery into the final corner. Not really happy with these cars, and we're not going to just lose out to Vips, we might even lose out to Armstrong here. Got to be careful with him. Not the best of starts then for us, dropping down to P2 here. I think we have, no, he doesn't have an overlap, so we're all right. And now, oh, maybe a move on Yuri Vips too. Look at that, late on the brakes. Always love a good fight in Sector 1. Slam the door shut, maybe a little bit cheekily. And we regain P1 as my teammate Piastri back there is fighting to stay P5. And Lorim Zendelli, who started P8 on the grid, clearly having a fantastic start. Now up to P5, purple in Sector 1. for us, as you'd expect, with of course it being second lap, so should certainly go quicker than the first lap. Teammate Oscar Piastri regains P5, and we are in the lead as we head towards 1/10 of this Mexican F2 race completed. Of course, 20 laps of action, and we should certainly have a pit stop in there too. And just about, we're trying to find a bit of a break. There's not going to be a break in this one. We continue the side-by-side action with Juri Vips, and it's going to continue through the stadium section. Can we try and stay ahead? No, we can't. The action does not stop here. The action really doesn't. We're going to try to take as much to the inside of the curve as we can, and now it's going to be a challenge for us to try and get back to Vips by the time we reach turn 1. A little bit shaky, but we'll stay comfortably ahead of Jack Aitken. Let's have another look at the race start here. We were starting from pole position. Juri Vips just behind them, my teammate. We got away okay, actually. Not too badly off the start. You can see Jack Aitken. Fantastic launch there. It's then 3 wide heading into turn 1. This massive gaggle of cars. Teammate Oscar Piastri there in the thick of it. You can see down the inside line, Jack Aitken. That's how he got a fantastic start. Looking a bit further back, Sato, P7, Juan Yuzo struggling down to P10. But Felipe Drugovich there, trying to fight with my teammate a little bit. Zendelli comes through to P6. What an exciting start. Then you've got the Jack Aitken battle with Marcus Armstrong into the second sector here. Jack Aitken in front, and then Marcus Armstrong looking to fight back, and he does exactly that, up into P3. What a start. Teammate Oscar Piastri with a poor start down to P5 there. Looking further back, Zendelli leading Drugovich, Sato, and then Juan Yuzo, he's had a poor one, down to P9. Samaya P10, Tickdub P11, great start for Poucher, he's up to P12. And Beckman ahead of Fittipaldi, he's had a decent start. Then Lundgaard, Verschoor, Lawson, Deruvala, Nissany, Boschung, Viscal not making much progress, P21, and then Alessio De Leda continuing to struggle back there in P22. We are being well and truly chased into turn 1. Armstrong on one side, Aitken on the other. We're going to outbrake both of them into the first corner. The car sliding around very much so. Those two nearly thrown back into my teammate Oscar Piastri here. But Vips gets miles away with a bit of a messy start to this lap 3. And we're going to shove him to the outside line. Be careful not to try and take him off the track there. But Aitken still ahead of Armstrong for now, because Armstrong is coming back. Meanwhile, we are losing a bit of precious time to Juri Vips in that lovely Red Bull livery in front. He's starting to get away. It's been a bit of a shaky start for ourselves, not really unlocking the true potential of the car round here. Now we have catch-up time to get to Juri Vips. It will, of course, though, help us when we get to him, because if we're going to bridge the gap to him, it will mean that Aitken and Armstrong are falling back. But a bit of work to do to catch up to Juri in front. We are, though, starting to get away from Jack Aitken behind. The action seemingly does not stop here at Mexico. It is Jack Aitken with DRS flying past us here into turn 1. We're going to try it round the outside to keep the move. Always love to do that here at Mexico. We get that done. We are, though, every time we fight, Vips is getting further and further away, already with the fastest lap, and we are leading the whole field. That's how big the train is at the moment. The pace just not here at Mexico as much as... Whoa! That was a ridiculous send attempt there. I'm sorry, mate, there was no space. That's put us under pressure. My teammates lost out to Lorim Zendelli, but that was not the cleanest of attempts at a send. I had trying to dodge it. Maybe I didn't leave him enough space. I could be a bit wrong there. Maybe that is my fault, but to be honest with you, there was really not much space at all to try a kamikaze dive bomb there, and we are really getting away through the middle sector at the moment, as you can see, but still dropping further and further away from the leader. A nice little bit of good news here. We've gone personal best in Sector 1, purple in Sector 2. We're now starting to find that rhythm that we've been lacking, and Vips is in my tunnel vision, which I certainly love to have around any track. Once he's in the tunnel vision, I get my head down and we can really start to put in some decent laps. Not the best of Sector 3s, but that is going to give us the fastest lap, 1 minute 28. Lovely there. And now we are bridging the gap to Yuri. Aitken quite a way behind, and I feel we haven't helped those guys. We sort of backed them all into each other and away from Vips, and then we're starting to run away from them to go to Vips. So certainly helped us defensively, actually, if we do catch up Vips, because we can end up fighting. We can end up fighting Vips freely, because Aitken and Armstrong are going to be miles behind, so we don't have to worry too much about those guys biting right at our heels. We can have a really good wheel-to-wheel battle, maybe sacrificing a second or two by doing so. But at the moment, starting to bridge the gap, not overly quick at the start of this one. We generally gain our pace in the middle sector. Got a little bit of the middle sector around here at Mexico, just shaving off a little bit of the track as a little slide through there. I'm fine with that. In the F2 cars, you get a lot of sliding around. You've got to use that at times to your advantage. Get a bit more turn in, don't you? Bit sloppier this stuff, I've got to say. Not really hitting the mark during the middle sector with that little slide we had. But still, P2 on lap number 6. The tyres holding up okay. The front's taking a bit of a battering so far. Quite high tyre wear around here at Mexico, so we've got to be careful with that one. But Vips, a couple of seconds in front. That is certainly reachable. And on lap number 7, we're looking pretty comfy. A little bit of drama here, it seems. Yellow flags are out. Don't know if someone's lost it. Maybe a little mechanical failure. And I think it's a mechanical failure. That seems to be, I think Dan Ticktum is that. No, Samaya, sorry. Samaya's out the session, yes. Samaya, I saw that the yellow car was detached. That would have been Dan Ticktum, I do believe. But wow, yes, what a shame for Samaya. He started, of course, in the points. So that is a real shame for him to be out because of a mechanical failure. What a shame. We've seen it so many times. Drivers in the points who are finally up there to be able to fight for something, then end up with a mechanical failure. What a shame for him. That split the bunch back there into two. Still, though, really, with those DRS trains, not many overtakes. We're slowly catching a little bit on Yuri Vips, but on to lap number 9, to be honest. Not really too much happening here. We are kind of catching onto Yuri, but then dropping a little bit further away. A really nice sector on. Still, a lot of work to do as we approach the halfway point. Lap 10 here, and we are actually edging closer and closer and closer to Yuri Vips. Not really getting close enough, and little things like that aren't going to help us. However, I don't know if we are going to be a DRS for the first time. Yes, we are. Certainly messed the S's section up a little bit there. That's not going to help us. Still the lovely big split in the field. That might hopefully incense an overtake or two. Maybe someone wants to get past Dan Ticktum there. Problem is with these DRS trains is if the car just directly behind the leader of the train can't get through, then no one else can, of course, because it's just the constant DRS train, and we've lost DRS this time round. We are approaching the pit window, and that could be the pivotal thing. We could potentially try and do the opposite of it, so maybe stay out a bit longer or undercut him, but those fresh, lovely, fresh tyres are going to be pretty quick, I have to say, when you're going onto the super softs. You'll feel the effect later. However, I do feel that the undercut could be absolutely pivotal. We're still not going to be a DRS, of course, because the activation zone for both of these two is at the same point, but certainly catching and then dropping a little bit away. So pushing to Vips, but just not quite getting there in this one. Christian Lundgaard certainly didn't have the greatest of qualifyings in at P14 at the moment, but Richard Verschoor flying down the inside line into the first corner, and in fact Christian Lundgaard may even lose out to Liam Lawson. No, he won't. The Red Bull livery will remain P16, but Lundgaard losing a place there, struggling a bit compared to his teammate up in P11, looking to maybe get onto the points positions. He's on the fringe of it now. Liam Lawson versus Christian Lundgaard. Lundgaard maybe losing 2 positions in 1 lap. Look at this side-by-side action at the start of Sector 2, and that is Liam Lawson in front. Lundgaard down to P16. That's Jehan Daruvala sitting just behind. Finally, we have an opportunity to come at Vips. We got a lovely bit of DRS last lap in the third DRS zone. from Sector 2 into Sector 3 this lap. A lovely bit of DRS. So we're going to go for the move. Surely not. We're forced to just cut the corner a tad there. Didn't gain any time, actually. I slowed down just to avoid an incident. Maybe a little bit too ambitious of a send there. We still got DRS though to ensure we don't lose too much time to Yuri, and we're still going to be within a second at this stage, really catching on to the back of him. And it does seem that the larger of the two trains is starting to break apart here. Really is starting to break apart. Maybe some cars starting to struggle a little bit staying on the pace. The tyres might be starting to go off a little as we get towards the super softs, but of course if your tyres are going off now, then I'd hate to know what they're like at the end of the super softs, as we've just taken a little bit off that marker there. Try not to go any further than that marker, and I have done that time. Sorry for that, guys, but we are now right onto the back of Yuri Vips. If he's going to pit, I might pit too. Or we could stay out and go for the overcut, which isn't really going to work, I don't think, in this situation. But certainly don't want to be pitting this lap. Does he pit? No, he doesn't. He decides to stay out. Don't want to pit too early, of course, because those super softs are going to die towards the end. Want to pit this lap. Apparently, I'd certainly want a good amount of time on the super softs. DRS, but we did fall away from Yuri in the final sector. Could be a bit of cat and mouse here, like we had in My Team Career Mode Season 1. If we cast our minds back to that, with Checo Perez, not a Mexican, cheered on by the home fans in front of us. I'm sure Yuri Vips is being cheered on by fans in the stadium section and so on, and the grandstands round here with all these lovely complexes we've got, but still really close to the back of him through the middle sector. Lap 13 out of 20. We're getting close, but not really close enough here. We're going to have to wait a little longer. It hasn't taken long now for us to get back into DRS for a little go, maybe. Getting past Yuri, we can't go for it there. Oh, so close. We're right onto the back of him now. A little bit too aggressive under braking. With F1 cars, usually when you lock up, they will just not turn. With these cars, as we are not going to box this lap, I'm going to stay out with Yuri, and we're going to probably go into the pits next lap. But really, with these cars under braking, if you lock up, they just start to turn, effectively. However, with F1 cars, if they lock up, you can't get them to turn. And we're going to be close with Yuri Vips. Going to go for the move into the first corner. We've got it nicely and firmly done through the complex section. But he sticks it back through on us. I didn't think he was there. Gave him enough space. I'm being a bit cautious. Don't want an incident here. Still plenty of time left in this race. Now the dive bomb, maybe. He locks up. We probably locked up too. But not going to be, and we continue the game of cat and mouse. I don't mind playing this until the last lap of the Grand Prix, and then you've just got to go for it. But at the moment, still P2, still pushing onto Yuri. Yuri in front, looks like he's going to bring it in this lap. We are going to join him. Into the pits we come. Nicely in there. Decided to back off a bit so we could sort of go flat out on entry. We are in to our pit box. The super softs are on here. So's everyone else. This could screw us. We're going to go for a double stack. And oh no. That's cost us time. Where is Yuri? That is Yuri there. We haven't actually lost too much time. I'm guessing. Yes, we are okay in this one. The super softs are on, but that did cost us a little bit. Aitken right on our back now. So a costly pit stop, and that's actually cost us a lot. We may be under threat from but further back. We are not. But look at the amount of time we have lost to Yuri Vips there. What a frustration. We probably needed to go for the move before the pit stops, but now that's a bit of time to make up before we can even think about going for a move on him. Oh, what a frustration there. What a frustration. We have got the super softs though. They should be blisteringly quick, and we've got a lot of work to do to try and catch up to Yuri, who sits in front. We've been battling him a little bit, trying to get past him for a few laps before this on the softs, and now we are back to playing the catching game, this time being chased down by Zendelli, Aitken and Marino Sato. How has he got there? The order a little bit shaken up after that, but we undoubtedly have a lot of work to do if we want to fight against Vips for the win here today. Out of DRS with a lot of catching to do. We have to continue catching in this one, but yellow flags. And I'm not sure, I think it's for one of the Univertosi Racing cars, and it is Guan Yu Zhou. What a shame. Could have been maybe on for some points in today's race. That is pivotal for him, because he can't make any more gains on the top few in the championship. We are slowly gaining ourselves on Yuri Vips. Purple in the middle sector, not as quick though in the first sector, so we are catching. What a shame for Guan Yu Zhou, out thanks to a mechanical failure. Drugovic still going in this one, but a bit of work for him to do to take any decent points here. A little bit too late out the final corner. Nice in sector 2, just struggling in the first couple. Faster than Yuri, but with that 4 laps to go, still a lot of catching to be done. Let's have a little refresh of the order on lap number 17 then. Everyone's on their pit stops. It's all settled down a bit. Yuri Vips leads myself. We've got plenty of work to do to catch up to him after the frustrations in the pit stops. Larim Zendelli versus Jack Aitken. We're going to get the battling right here, and that is Jack Aitken in front of Larim Zendelli. Then Marino Sato ahead of Marcus Armstrong. Drugovic still going strong for some good points in P7. Then Houcher up to P8. Great progress from him. Dan Ticktum sits in P9 ahead of Enzo Fittipaldi in P10. He rounds out the points positions, making good progress up the field. Lawson, P11 ahead of Verschoor, and then Lawson's teammate is all the way down, all the way up there. That's Yuri Vips. Gets a bit confusing when they've all got very similar colours. As back there, Bent Viscal versus Oscar Piastri. Similar liveries, and it is Viscal in front, but if you head back up there, it is Lawson, Verschoor, Beckman just outside the top 10, Deruvla P14 ahead of Roy Nissany P15. He is trying to chase onto the back of the Carlin. Then, of course, Ralph Bostrung ahead of Bent Viscal. My teammate Oscar Piastri really unlucky with the pit stops. Of course, that's generally my fault. We ended up double stacking, and that's cost him. Then Alessio De Leda and Christian Lungard rounding out those who are still running. Finally, we seem to have got the Super Softs in the window. They seem to be really giving us some pace, as always, running nicely through the middle sector here at Mexico with those twisty S's. Got to love going through them. In these F2 cars, we retake the fastest lap. That was, of course, taken by Theo Poucher, I do believe, last time round. But we are now chasing Yuri Vips in this one. Can we get towards him into turn 1? Don't want to try and send it down the inside line there. That would be a bit risky, but we're going to have DRS, so it's all about the exit off this section of corners. Sorry about that. Seemed to have cut a little much there. That's a warning. But now we're going to try and chase Yuri Vips. Are we going to get close enough for the dive bomb? Not really. I'd like to have tried, but just no space for it. We need to get a bit of a move on. Only 2 more laps after this. Let's see, as we lock up a bit too eager through there, we're going to have to settle back into P2. But now, our strong point of the lap, this lovely S's section. Trying to carry a bit more through here, maybe a little bit more of the track than Yuri's doing. Now, running a little bit wide, swoop back on, and we're going to try the inside line for P1. This is where we got the move in my team season 1 on Checo Perez. We're going to have to try and finish it off through the stadium section, and this is one of the longest and best battles I've had in an F2 car today with Yuri Vips. Oh my days, it's such fantastic defending from him. Really now got to play it aggressively down the main straight. We need to try and catch back up to him. Constantly fighting more DRS with not that long left to go in this one lap. 19 out of 20 this lap, then one more. Only one more go down this long main straight. The best overtaking opportunity on the track now. Round the outside line, we've got to really go for the move here. Can we get it done? Yes, we can. P1 and then some DRS to ensure we keep the position. He is really having a look at us though here. Yuri Vips, despite not having DRS, clearly got a fantastic exit off sector 1. And now on lap 19 out of 20, we finally have the lead over Yuri Vips on these super soft tyres. A little moment there, but P1 in this lovely race. On to the final lap we go here. 20 laps of this race, and we're about to complete it. Yuri Vips still, I do believe, within a bit of DRS range there. My teammates had an absolute shocker of a race. He is right at the back of the field, only one car behind him. I think he's being held up a bit by the HWO Race Lab car of Alessio De Leda, so a real shame for my teammate. But on the final lap here, lap 20 out of 20, we're going to try and bring it home. Yuri is going to try and give us a run for our money, but we do actually get a personal best in Sector 1. He is chasing us down, but it's going to be hard for him to try and match us in the middle sector, because that's definitely my strong point. So looks like we are heading towards another feature race win. Aitken looking pretty comfy for that P3 podium. He's going to be very, very happy with that. Now, can we continue it through nicely to finish it all off with this lovely Sector 2. Now, we're going to bring it into Sector 3 through the stadium section. Hopefully, the fans will be roaring. Maybe a bit of fireworks, that'd be nice. Confetti at all? Oh, now I can hear the fireworks going off. Look at that, the confetti sprouting up in the stadium section. The party atmosphere here in Mexico, because we are going to come home for P1 to win the Mexican race.
That's a fantastic performance from Prema. It hardly looked in doubt. So, Davide, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
This race, this week, was about one thing and one thing only: consistency. Anyone can be quick for just one lap, but there's a difference between that and being quick every lap, over and over and over. If you can do that, if you can gain ground when your opponents make mistakes, but then not make mistakes on your own, you can just push and push.
As we look back on a thrilling race here today, we can now see the drivers take their places on the podium. It's a familiar sight by now, as it's another successful F2 win for Prema.
Another win for ourselves in the feature races. 3 out of 4, and that is 27 points, of course, taking the win and the fastest lap in 30 minutes of scintillating racing action. But we certainly weren't unchallenged. Yuri Vips in P2, we had a lovely race-long battle with him, some scrapping with him, but then, of course, the tactics with, of course, the pit stops and so on. We lost a lot of time from that, and then just sitting and waiting, maybe not always going for the move, just to play it nice and careful, because you've still got the opportunity later on in the race. But what a fantastic battle that was with Yuri Vips. P2 for him, 18 points, I think, for the way he pushed us to the end there. He certainly deserved a little bit more than that, but fantastic drive from Yuri Vips, and some of the best defending I've seen on the F1 game from the AI. So advanced, the AI in the F1 games, and of course in the F2 cars too. Absolutely fantastic race long battle. Really love that one with him. And then Jack Aitken for HWA Race Lab, an absolutely fantastic result. Up to this point, his season hasn't been that fantastic, but that start from him was simply fantastic. He raced with Marcus Armstrong a little bit on the first few laps, and then of course later on in the race managed to take that podium after overtaking Lorim Zentelli, who gained from the pit stops. But 15 points for the Brit, and a fantastic drive for HWA Race Lab. His teammate, yes, disappointing with his finishing position, but certainly not for Jack. You love to see, you know, someone maybe struggled at the start of the season, coming back up the order and fighting, and that's certainly what Jack has done today. So well earned, 15 points from him, and of course all starters with that lovely launch off the line. Then P4, Lorim Zentelli, finally not suffering from any mechanical issues or just all of a sudden deciding to fall backwards for no apparent reason and so on. Finished just 6 seconds behind ourselves today, and 12 points for him. Going to be very happy with that for MP Motorsport. His teammate Richard Verschoor just missing out on points, but the Rim takes him home for the team from P8 on the grid, so definitely some good progress there. He made a decent start for my teammate a bit for P5 in the earlier stages of the race, and they've played the pit stops perfectly to get those 12 points. A great drive from him, but also Marino Sato from P10 in that lovely Trident car. A great drive from the Japanese driver, and of course his teammate a little bit further down the field. I have to say, disappointing from him, but certainly not at the other side of the garage with Sato. 10 points on the board. After that, another solid drive. He's driven really well, of course, in the Mexico sprint race. He drove pretty well then. He also drove well at Austria, but some mechanical issues have really, really plagued him. Today, though, a decent amount of points on the board. Marcus Armstrong looked pretty decent early on in the race, fighting Jack Aitken for P3, but later on started to just sort of slip away from him. 8 points in the flag with P6. Not the best of results, but still taken something away from it. Then Felipe Drugovich, P7 for Uni Virtuosi Racing from 6th on the grid. It was a decent race for him. I mean, you feel like Uni Virtuosi really did struggle, of course, on Ujoke with the mechanical failure. They just really did struggle today, though. They weren't that comfortable during the race. Felipe, yes, he's dropped a place by the flag, but 6 points on the board, really confidence boosting for him, and a fantastic drive. Then P8, Théo Pourchaire with an absolute stunner of a drive from P14 on the grid. That's got to be, well, it's got to be a contender for driver of the day. I'm not saying it is, because Fittipaldi made up plenty of spaces on the grid, places I should say, but Théo Pourchaire there for ART Grand Prix car. What a drive, I've got to say. 4 points, and a drive like that is going to keep him nicely in it in the championship standings. Love to see it, from P14 to P8. Now that is a drive and a half. Followed by Dan Tickton for Carlin, managed to leap into the points to take a couple today. Decent drive from him once again, starting to get around the points as we head towards the end of this season. Then Enzo Fittipaldi, P10, Charu Racing System team from P17 on the grid. It was looking a little bit of a big ask for him to try and get up into the points. Really didn't think he would be getting up into the points from P17, but what a drive from the Brazilian to take a point. Might be pivotal in the grand scheme of things, you don't know. It's not a massive haul of points, but really managed to salvage something today. Liam Lawson, equally fantastic for him from P18 on the grid for High Tech Grand Prix. His teammate might have been P2, but another fantastic drive at that team. You know, Yuri pushed me right to the flag, well deserving of those points, and then Liam Lawson with a fantastic drive from P18 to just miss out on points. Richard Verschoor, P13 to P12, a pretty mediocre race, couldn't get in the points, but just a solid one from Richard Verschoor, as always, and similarly for David Beckman. Those two swap positions by the time we reached the flag. Jen Deruvla, P14, couldn't quite pull off something his teammate managed to do and get some points, but still gained a couple of places, and a decent result for him in the Carlin car, but a very good result for Roy Nissany and Ralph Boschung. Great drive from them. Nissany P15, Boschung P16. That is really decent drive from those two. They really have struggled often towards the back this season, so nice to see them fighting forwards and getting some overtakes. Then we have the final few finishers, and certainly some very good drivers down in the bottom six. Bent Viscal, P17, made progress, but generally that's because two drivers ended up retiring with mechanical failures. Oh, Bent, what a shame from him to not be able to compete with us for the championship, because I can confirm we are the championship leaders, very much so by enough points, which means we are guaranteed the championship. But Bent there, P19 to P17, just hasn't had the pace this weekend. That showed. His best lap wasn't particularly fantastic there, similar to, well, look at Ralph Boschung's. The field's very spread with the fastest laps, and much quicker than someone like Fittipaldi, but a lot slower than someone like Boschung there, a couple of tenths off his best lap. But for Viscal, needed to make more progress, failed to do so today. A disappointing result for him. Alessio De Leda made progress for H3O Race Lab, but nowhere near as much as his teammate. P22, yes, rocked last on the grid to P18 at the flag, but still a disappointing quali and not too incredible of a race result. Good progress, but not to be. But then Oscar Piastri, that's generally because of me. Sorry, Oscar, but I wanted to come in at the same time as Yuri, who was the race leader at that point. And it meant we ended up double stacking, and because this field was so close, it then dropped my teammate all the way back down the field. Ended up finishing P19. What a shame there. Generally my fault there. But Oscar right at the back of the field. No points for him. A real shame, and that could be pivotal for the championship. And then Christian Lundgaard, P20. Not entirely sure what happened to him. Can't remember now. But, well, it certainly went wrong somewhere. 15th on the grid. Failed to make any progress. Ended up falling right to the back of the order. So, quite a disappointing one for the Dane. And then Guan Yu Zhou and Samaya sadly couldn't make it to the finish, thanks to mechanical issues. Looking at the standings then, we continue to extend our lead. Now 88 points over Bent Viscal. It's been a little bit too easy almost for us this season, which is a bit of a shame. But comfortably ahead of Bent Viscal. The battle behind, though, is boiling at the moment, I've got to say. Bent Viscal P2 on 65 points. He's ahead of Juri Vips, who's moved up into the top 3 positions after today's race. He has 51, well within the reach of the others behind, but also close enough to challenge Viscal in the championship. Dupouchet drops down to P4 despite salvaging some points today. Still in the mix there, but dropping 5 points behind Juri Vips. Marcus Armstrong and Guan Yu Zhou have both made progress for their teams. 37 points each. Armstrong just behind Boucher, and of course Zhou just behind Boucher. Those two, 9 points behind Teo. It's going to be a bit of a push to try and get onto the podium. Of course, Yuri having 51 points, but I certainly wouldn't count them out towards the end of the season. Then Alessio De Leda, P7 HWA Race Lab. Of course, with only 1 round to go, that's starting to push it to be able to get into the top 3. 34 points for him, still possible, but with the poor results he's getting at the moment, it certainly isn't looking likely. My teammate Oscar Piastri certainly isn't dominating at the moment. 32 points for him with that poor result today. He is pretty much out the fight for the podium. 1 point ahead of Enzo Fittipaldi, who continues to drop down the order, who is also 1 point ahead of Arim Zendelli, making progress for MP Motorsport with a good result today. Pretty consistent, ahead of his teammate Richard Verscholl. Looking further down the field, Sato with good points today. That's 25 as a total for him, ahead of Liam Lawson, Jack Aitken and David Beckman. P13 down to P15, separated by 2 points. There's still all to play for in the field at the moment. Then, of course, after that, Felipe Drugovich on 16 points, ahead of Dan Ticktum on 10, same amount of points as Christian Lundgaard. Daruvla has 4, with just Nissany, Samaya and Bostrung still yet to score. Only 3 drivers yet to score. Real shame for Samaya with that mechanical failure. It could have been his first points of the season, but all to play for at the moment. Still, anyone can really take second. We have won the championship with those 88 point lead, but Viscal, Vips, Boucher, Armstrong, Zhou, De Leda, all still in the battle. I'd probably say De Leda a little bit too far away, but plenty still to play for in the order. And then for the minor places, even to get in the top 10, Zendelli has that precious spot there. But really, anyone can come at him. Maybe even from Aitken, Lawson, Sato and Verschaw. Plenty still to be played for in the drivers' standings. With that little bit of racing left, a lot can change, and that's what we found in this F2 season. In terms of the team standings, looking very, very comfortable for ourselves. A 95-point lead, and that should seal the deal. 185 for Prima. Trident sit P2, continuing there with 90 points, but are being chased down by High Tech Grand Prix. The gap's at 18 points. That's going to be hard to close in, but still possible. The battle for fourth is now led by MP Motorsport, 1 point ahead of ART. Struggling a little today. They have a 2-point lead over HWO Race Lab, who have a 1-point lead over Univirtuosi Racing. And the rest of the team is pretty much out of the fight to get into the top 3 in the constructors. Dams have 37 points ahead of Chiru, and it's Campos and Carlin rounding out the 11 teams, all of which have points at this stage in the season, but still to be played for in the team standings too, with a battle for the podium. Well, in terms of what is left, of course, on the calendar, you guys will maybe know, maybe not know, that Silverstone is left. Now, I haven't fully decided whether we're going to be doing those 3 videos with quali, sprint and feature race yet. Of course, time starting to run out for the F1 2021 game onto the 2022 one pretty soon. I still do want to get, of course, the Breaking Point series finished, hopefully, and continue along with my team career mode. So hopefully we'll have time to finish this. If we don't, then hopefully you understand why, because to be honest with you, there's nothing left for us to play in it. It's just about the others. So even if we just not compete in it and saw the others do it, that's the important thing, because to be honest, we are just in there to be a nuisance to other people effectively by trying to battle them for a position in the race. So I may do that, I may not. If you're watching this at a later date, maybe even towards the F1 2022 game coming out, you might be able to go and have a look, and it might already be there and it might be done, but I'm just saying now that that is not a given guaranteed because of this situation. But if we do, of course, if we do have time to finish off the season, still plenty to be played for, as we know, in the standings. Of course, the battle, as I said, for P2 and P3 on the podium, similarly in the team standings. But another fantastic race. We've been pushed to the max by Yuri Vips, but a win here today in the Mexican feature race. A really fun one today. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But I'll catch you all sometime soon.